Hi, this is Jed Vardaman, Gymnasium Equipment Product Manager here at Draper. Today we're going to cover the EasyPad Plus Gym Control System. This is one of the systems that we use to operate our basketball backstop, gym name divider curtains, and other electrical devices within a gym. There's a series of dip switches. If your project only has one relay box, there's nothing to be done. But if your project has more than one relay box, you'll have to come in and set or define the dip switches for the added relay boxes. The original relay box goes out marked as 0. The additional relay box will be known as 1. The next one will be 2, and so on. So one of the first things you need to do is to reset these dip switches if you have more than one relay box on your project. As with any project, communication is key, especially for setting up the EasyPad Plus. The electrician needs to give you an understanding of where he landed all of his motor supplies within this relay box. There's two sets of power that come in. One comes in here and one comes in here, 30 amp breakers from the power source. Each of these relays will have motors landed to them on either side. Here is the relay assignment worksheet. And as I said, if communications are good with your electrician, he will already have identified within box 0, relay set number 1, current description, say backstop number 1, relay number 2, backstop number 2, and so on. This will make it much easier when you go to program the touchpad, knowing where these devices have been landed. If for some reason communications weren't very good with the electrician and the relay assignment worksheet was not filled out, you can go into operator mode and start running each of the devices. Device number 1, hit the up button. One of the backstops is going to move within the facility. You can then mark that for number 1. You could go in then to device number 2, hit the up button, identify which backstop is moving, and then you can mark that. A legend sheet similar to this will be very helpful. Certainly pen and paper, as those individual units start moving, you can identify which ones landed on relay 1, which ones landed on relay 2, and so on. This will be important if you go to set up groups I want to run more than one backstop at a time. The caveat to that is within this relay panel, we can only energize 2 sets of relays on either side of the panel. If, for instance, your side court backstops ended up in relay sets 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're not going to be able to put those into a group because you can only run 2 relays at a time on either side. Ideally, you would have backstop number 1 main court here, backstop number 2, the opposing main court here, and then your side court hoops number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6 land in that fashion. The reason for that, these 2 relays are opposing, so you could set the main court backstops 1 and 2 up on a group for those to run simultaneously. The side court hoops then, 3, 4, 5, and 6, could also be set into a group where 3 and 4, the side court hoops, and 5 and 6, the opposing side court hoops, could run simultaneously in a group control. Okay, we're going to close up the relay box for now, and we're going to take a look at the actual touchpad. A couple of notes on here, you'll see the enter button, setup button, up or on, and down and off. We typically use these as up and down. On and off really doesn't apply. These are momentary type switches in here, so when you go to run a backstop up, when you hit the up button, you have to maintain pressure on the touchpad to get the backstop to continue to run. As soon as you remove your finger, it's going to stop all by itself. The first thing we'll go over is the Supervisor Mode for programming. Touch any key to get started. The password of 777 777 is embedded in here as a supervisor passcode. So that gets you up and running. From the supervisor passcode, you can hit the setup button, and the setup button is going to start bringing in events like configure system. And under the configure system, you want to check to make sure the timeout within this pad is set properly. It's supposed to leave the factory at 300 seconds or 5 minutes, which covers 99.9% of the backstop motors as far as how long it takes them to run. So, but it's a good idea while you're in the setup mode to run the configure system and set the timeout, or make sure that it is set at 300 seconds. Once that's done, you'll be done with the setting of the timeout. Also in the supervisor, you're going to be able to set passwords, and the password, you can reset it for the supervisor, which is currently the 777777. You can go back at this point in time and reset that password to something that's more desirable for you. You can also set the password for the operator. The operator passcode when it leaves Draper is a series of 5s, 555, 555. That is the operator code. Again, in the supervisor, going through the config system, you can reset that password for anything that may be more desirable for you. It's up to you then to give that password out to any of your users so that they come in and run the equipment when they need to be. It's probably best not to post this password anywhere around here. That opens it up for anybody to walk into the gym and say, oh, there's the password, and run these things, and they may not have authorization to run the items. Also in the supervisor mode under setup, you'll come across something that says config device box. You remember earlier we were talking about setting the dip switches. If you have more than one of these relay boxes on your project, this is where you go in. After you set the dip switches, you go into the configure device box, and you can identify the related boxes with this. So as I said, this one goes out as 0, the next one would be 0, 1, the next one 0, 2, and down the line you go. Well, the Touchpad has to identify what relay box you're trying to energize, and you have to set up those in identifying the relay boxes as O1 and O2 and so on. So when you go to run something, it's going to know you have more than one box, and it's going to be able to communicate or identify those additional relay boxes. As I said earlier, we talked about a little bit about the relays and where the wires were landed in each of these relay sets. Also in the supervisor, you can go in and set up configure group or config group. As I said, as long as you don't have more than 2 sets of relays on a particular relay set, you can set the groups up to run. The 2 main cord hoops can run at the same time. The 2 opposing, or a total of 4 backstops, could run at the same time, depending upon where the wires are landed within this relay box. And under the supervisor code, in the config groups, you can set those up and identify those as group 1 being the 2 main court backstops, group 2 as being the 4 side court backstops, and so on. If for some reason down the line passwords are lost under the supervisor code, somebody set up a password for the operator and it's been lost, nobody knows it, what have you, we do have an embedded passcode within this Touchpad system. You could call Draper at 800-238-7999. Get into the gymnasium equipment department. We can give you that passcode to get this thing opened back up. You can then get into the supervisor code and reset your passwords for the future. One thing that we find a lot when this Touchpad is installed into the wall, this green ribbon cable right here gets pinched from time to time setting into the box. Setting into the box, this green ribbon cable gets pinched and communications are lost. It's very easy to unplug and plug this back in right here. So if you're having difficulties, if not all the numbers are popping up, something of that nature, the first thing to troubleshoot is this green ribbon cable here. As I said, from time to time it's very thin, very small, it gets overlooked and gets pinched within the construction box and causes problems for the unit itself. So I'd always check that green ribbon cable to make sure that it's plugged in properly and not pinched within the construction box. That covers basically everything that you'll need for the EasyPad Plus touchpad system. We have a comprehensive set of instructions that you can download from our website. They go through each one of the operator and supervisor codes as far as programming these units. Very self-explanatory. And again, if you have any further questions, please contact Draper at 800-238-7999. Thank you.